Let's talk a little bit about the format. You've got you've got how many questions do you think you anticipate asking?
I don't know yet. I mean, I know how many I've got. I don't know if we'll hit all of them. I mean, if you look at Facebook, we've gotten lots and lots of questions, but a lot of them are redundant, or a lot of them are about the same thing, and a lot of them have nothing to do with Congress. You know, a lot of them are local issues or state issues, and sometimes people confuse federal issues, local issues, state issues. So we've had to weed out all that stuff and really get down to the bones of what people really care about and what these guys will probably at least have some sort of an answer for.
Have you chosen the kind of final pool of questions yet?
Yeah, I finished it tonight. Yeah, I finished it tonight. I can always add tomorrow if I need to. And we may be in a situation where, you know, we won't get to all of them. We may get to all of them, which will be interesting because it's live TV, and if we hit all of them, it may open us up to talk about some other things.
We talked a little bit earlier about how you got this, how this was all set up, because it's a pretty remarkable thing. The first time in almost 20 years there's been a televised congressional debate in the 11th District. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about how you landed this gig?
Well, I made a couple of phone calls and it sort of happened. I mean, it really was that simple. I mean, both candidates were open to it. It wasn't difficult to talk them into it. I asked whether they were interested. Both said yes. So we had to go back and forth a little bit in terms of dates. Tomorrow or Thursday ends up being a great day because it's the first day of early voting, so it's very timely. You know, the only folks who may have voted already are folks who are absentee ballots. So, you know, as they head to the polls in the next couple of weeks, it'll give them everything will be fresh. It'll be new. It'll be something beyond what they see on those commercials.
Yeah, the method that you're getting these questions is sort of revolutionary. They're not coming from you, they're coming from the viewers, and they're coming from Facebook. How did you decide on that?
Well, I think the voters are the ones, they're the folks who matter, and they're the folks who are going to ultimately vote, and they should certainly be able to understand where the candidates stand on the issues that they care about. And I can't really understand what they want to hear about or the answers they really want addressed without them telling me. So it's a great method and a fairly new method for them to communicate with us. And it's also kind of fun because it means that the audience is engaged in the process. It means they might see their name up there on Thursday, and they might be the ones who, you know, hear their name, hear their question, and get a kick out of what either of the candidates say, or they might not like what they have to say.
Do you anticipate having any of the candidates' handlers present, kind of coaching them with answers? How do you think they're going to come into this?
We're not allowed to. They're not allowed to bring any handlers in except for one apiece, and they'll sit over there in that corner. So if you want to put this in perspective, that's on that side of the studio, and the candidates will be all the way on that side of the studio. And they'll be tethered to wired microphones, which means if they want to get up and leave, it's going to be a bit of a pain. So they're going to have to take the microphones off. They can go to the restroom, but they cannot talk to their handlers. So, you know, if they bring some folks who want to watch, they can't come in. They're going to be put in two other rooms where they can sort of watch the process. But I think there's several watch parties anyway. So I'm not sure that they'll even bring that many people. But if they do, one each allowed over there, no talking, no Blackberries, no notes. It's all what you know up in here, and that's how we're going to go with it.
So the answers are limited to a minute apiece?
It's a minute apiece, 30 seconds to rebut. But I have a feeling, you know, I've talked to both candidates about this and their camps. They may not fill that minute, and I'm hoping they won't fill the minute because the shorter the answer, the more questions we can get in. But it's going to be very relaxed. I mean, this is not going to be as regimented as what you might be used to seeing in other debates.
Well, typically with debates, you know, one camp will insist that, you know, you don't talk about this, or there's certain rules, or I mean, how did that work? Did they just come in here and just gave you free reign with it? How did it work?
Pretty much free reign. I set the rules for the most part. I mean, I asked if they, you know, I told them both, you know, we're going to pull these questions from Facebook. Do you have a problem with that? No. This is what time limit we're sort of looking at. Do you have a problem with that? No. I mean, so we sort of went down the list. I wrote it up last week and emailed it just to make sure we were all on the same page, and it seems that we are. Both agreed that they could sit next to each other and that I would sit across from them. You know, it's been actually a very simple process. Not a whole lot of drama going on in this thing.
Did you divide the questions up into you know, sort of national security issues and social issues and economy, that sort of thing? I mean, was there any structure to how you decided?
I tried to make sure that there was at least one that addressed each of those each of the different types of issues. The conundrum that we may be in is that we don't hit all those questions because we're limited with time. Because we're doing this within a newscast, which is very unusual. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do this sort of thing before. So it's a new thing for us, and it's certainly a new thing for our viewers as well.
What's going to be taken away from the typical newscast? I mean, you have to make the room for it. What are you going to lose tomorrow?
We'll probably lose things like business block, the buzz. We have a very big story that's happening right now, which is the Wong trial, and there may be a verdict tomorrow. So we're dealing with that issue too. There may be a huge breaking news event while this is going on in here, so it could be pretty interesting. And it may mean these guys get bumped down a little bit. We may have to take time away. They may get all the time. I mean, it's going to be very, very fluid, and it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean.
So viewers can start watching this at 5 tomorrow throughout the 6th until the 6th
Right.
begins.
The way that we're planning it right now, and again, this is fluid and it's subject to change. We'll start a regular newscast at 5 o'clock toward the end of the first block before we go to commercial. I'll introduce the two guys, sort of lay out exactly what the rules are, hopefully get in one good question so they both have a chance to talk. And then we'll come back from commercial and spend that entire section of news with the two candidates. Then we'll come back at 5:30 and use that whole first section of the newscast to talk to those guys. Go to commercial, then come back to them again in the 5:30, and then do a similar thing at 6 o'clock. So the anchors will be sitting here, reporters will be coming in and out, weather will be going on, the candidates will be tethered over there to microphones, and we'll try to do it all at one time. This thing evolved pretty quickly. I mean, it was not difficult to make it happen, but I'm excited to see what does happen because it's very different than what we're used to seeing. I mean, if people want to see a really regimented debate, they're not going to get that, but they are going to get an opportunity to hear what these guys have to say in a short amount of time, address the questions that folks at home really want to hear. What the candidates' answers are, and in a much more relaxed atmosphere than two podiums and then some guy in the middle asking the questions or some guy over there asking the questions and opening and closing. And I mean, if you think about a lot of debates, you're usually phased out after about 10-15 minutes.
So this is going to be a lot more conversational.
Very interview style.
Yeah. Kind of refreshing from the contentious nature of the campaign so far. They've been going at one another.
Well, and I hope that what this will do is take them away from that campaign rhetoric that we've heard, whether it's on the trail or in the commercials, and allow them to be more of who they are. Just pull down the curtain a little bit, and maybe we can get an idea of what their personalities are really like.
I think they're pretty nice guys.
They are. I've known them both. I mean, I didn't meet Jeff until he got in this race, and actually, I don't even think I met him until he won the primary, but I've known Congressman Muller since before he ran. I actually broke that story that he was going to run. Ran into it's kind of funny. It's a long story. I don't know if you want to hear it. But. Well, so the rumor was going around. I was working in the Haywood County Bureau that Heath Shuler may run. Heath Shuler may run. So called a guy who is close to Shuler. Tried to get some sort of interview going on. It just went back and forth and back and forth. So I just said, let's get in the car and go to his house. Go to his house. He's on the 4-wheeler or 3-wheeler, one of those kind of things. I'm like, hey, it's Russ. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm just trying to find out, are you running for Congress? And he's like, well, I'm thinking about it. And so that it sort of evolved from that. It was, just showed up at the house.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I suppose. It's one of those stories.
All right, so tomorrow at 5 o'clock for the hour, are you gonna rebroadcast it at all at like 11 o'clock or?
What we plan to do is pick a couple of segments to rerun at 6:30, which is on My 40, and then we will probably show a couple of those segments again at 10:11, and then I think we're going to attempt to edit it down to one complete segment and put it on our website on WLOS.com, so folks can see the thing in entirety in its entirety without a prompter. I can't talk. Can see it all in its entirety without actual news in between.
Well, yeah, given what you know, have you decided, Russ, who you're going to vote for yet?
Well, even if I do know, I'm not going to tell you, but I want to be an informed voter, so I'm going to wait to hear what these guys have to say tomorrow, and maybe that will influence my vote, and maybe it'll do the same thing for folks who are watching at home.
That's sort of what we expect you to say.
Yeah, of course. You really think I'm going to give up the goods? I might not vote for either one of them. You never know.
Russ, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Good to see you, Mark. Thanks.
This is Michael Muller with the Mountain Express.